Hello, good evening. My name's Richard. This is Over and Over and Over Again. And this is the first in a brand new series of shows we're going to be doing over the next few weeks, looking back at the World Cups that actually meant something, the ones that are in the summer when they're supposed to be. So we are starting with the first World Cup that I personally remember. We've got some guests coming on to go through some memories of the 1978 World Cup in Argentina. It's coming up the other side of this. So the first of the World Cup memories, 1978, Argentina. What fun that was. Joining me tonight is a regular on the channel, of course, Melvin. How are you tonight?
Fine, thanks. Looking forward to this. Something different.
Something different indeed. That's what we thought we'd do during the World Cup. Do something proper, proper World Cups, not all this rubbish that we've got going on in a couple of weeks' time. And a newcomer to the channel, making his debut, is Lee as well. How are you doing, Lee? Okay?
I'm great, Richard. Hi, Melvin. All good.
Hi, mate.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, as we're sort of talking off air, really, I mean, me and Lee, this is the first World Cup that we really remember. Melvin goes back a little bit further. He remembers a couple of other ones previously, but that's why this World Cup for me was so important. Now, I think it's maybe a good thing to maybe look at some of the stuff that was maybe going on in 1978. Now, the big film of 1978 was, of course, this one, which I'm sure we all remember.
You got a photograph. You got a photograph of me there for Richard.
So that was obviously one of the big films. This was also out at the cinema as well in 1978.
There he is, Christopher Reeve. Yeah,
Christopher Reeve. Yeah, as Superman, the original and the best, of course. Also, do you remember this film?
Oh, that was the guy smuggling to Midnight Express.
Yeah, Midnight Express. Yeah, about Turkey. That's great film, man.
Yeah, that was out in 78 as well.
Oh my God. I went to the pictures to see that, and I remember I come out shaking, and when it finished, the whole audience clapped. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's a great film.
Boom, 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 boom.
I mean, I was too young to see it at the cinema at the time, but I've seen it, obviously. It's a great film.
I went there. Yeah. I thought it was a film about trains.
It certainly wasn't about trains, Melvin. No, it wasn't.
No, I found that out very quickly.
Yeah, but it was a great film. You're right. Absolutely brilliant film.
Fantastic film.
On TV, this started as well in 1978.
Grange Hill,
indeed. And also, another one that started in 78 as well was that.
Dallas. Yeah. The oil man's ball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We all enjoyed it. We enjoyed a bit of Dallas, didn't we? No problem at all. Used to be great TV back then as well. Not just football was great, the TV was great. Also, as well, in terms of music, this was one of the big number ones of 1978, which was.
I won't sing. All right, sorry.
I would have played it, but we'll get a copyright thing. Another big song from 78.
I sing it, you won't.
There's Rod
Stewart. Do you think I'm sexy? Which of course he was. So yeah, that was fair enough. And the Prime Minister at that time was this fella. Remember him?
James Callaghan.
Yeah,
the Prime Minister.
He was a Prime Minister. He was, yeah. Now, obviously, in terms of football, this happened in 1978, which we don't want to look at too much, do we? But this did happen, unfortunately.
Yeah.
In the FA Cup final.
Yeah, they finally scored. I think they had about 15 chances that day, didn't they? And I remember my granddad saying to me, "They're going to score in a minute." I'm going, no, they're not going to score in a minute. And they did.
And they did. And they deserved to win that game. There's no doubt about it.
They did.
And another kind of shock tournament winner was this lot as well. They won the first division title, Nottingham Forest.
42 games undefeated, I think, from 77 to 78. Unbelievable team.
We beat them that season 3-0.
We did at the start. That was just before they bought Peter Shilton, I think it was. And they bought him. And then they went on that long run, didn't they, soon after?
Yeah.
And that's right. And this team did well in Europe as well, as they tended to do. One of European.
That's Bruges at Wembley. Old King Kenny.
That's right.
Yeah. Repaying some of his transfer fee, whatever it was at the time, a hefty 400 grand.
Exactly. Well, one of the biggest transfer fees at the time, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
So there are a few sort of memories of what was going on in the world and in the world of sport in 1978. But of course, we're here to look at the World Cup in Argentina. Now, there was a little bit of doubt about the World Cup going ahead at one time. There was a military coup in Argentina in 1976, I think it was. There was a lot of political unrest in the country. And as a result of that, actually, one of the best players in the world, Johan Cruyff, actually decided not to go and play. So he actually pulled out of the tournament for Holland, which was obviously a big shock to them. Now, there wasn't any British, well, there wasn't any, England wasn't involved. There was one British team involved. It was, of course, this lot who actually thought they might win it, surprisingly enough. It didn't quite go too well, did it, in the end, which we will talk about in a minute.
Our manager's there, our ex-manager's there, Richard.
He is. He was a captain. He was their captain.
Yeah.
And that worked out well for him as well, didn't it? But but they actually beat Wales to qualify, actually, in a knockout at Anfield, I seem to remember it. And they won that game to go through. We got knocked out by Italy. So that was sort of why we wasn't in it, which was a bit of a shame because...
I remember that. Sorry to interject, Richard. I was trying to do a bit of research before I come on, and that was my first. Obviously, before the World Cup, the utter devastation of we finished 10 points. I didn't realize it was 10 points at the top of Italy. Went out on goal difference. Luxembourg were in the group, weren't they? And I think we only won 2-0 against them. So we were well apart. But I remember that game against Italy at Wembley where we won when Ron Greenwood came in. Changed the team. We had flying Peter Barnes down the left, I think, and Trevor Brooking, Kevin Keegan, Bosch, 1-0. And then we managed to win the game. I think Keegan got an elbow then, which was like blatant flailing elbow in the eye. And but it weren't enough, was it? Devastated. Didn't make it. No,
we didn't. It was that was unfortunate because we hadn't qualified for a World Cup since 1970, and I was too young to remember that one. So I was looking forward to hopefully seeing England there, but it wasn't. That was the way it was, unfortunately. But I say Scotland were flying the flag for the United Kingdom. They were flying the flag, and they, as far as I remember, I mean, Melvin, they seemed pretty confident before, didn't they? Ali McLeod was the manager, and they kind of was quite bullish about it, wasn't they? Thinking they could do quite well. They had a good World Cup song, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, Ali's Army or something.
Ali's Tartan Army or something.
They made such a big thing out of it, didn't they? I mean, it was like I saw a program, I think last year, and it brought back all the memories. How they were so people actually were interviewed that sold their house to go to the tournament. Honestly, it's an amazing. I can't remember what it was on the program, but they were so they were. I think some of them must have sold their wives as well. I reckon. They sold everything. They had to go. It didn't matter. How some of them went, sold their house without even a ticket just to get there. It was the biggest dream. It was like going to Mecca, if you like, for them. Yeah. You know, they had to get there. It was the thing. And he pumped them up, the manager pumped them up so much that when they got done, it was the biggest deflation ever. It was really, I mean, let's face it, if we don't win the league this year, which may or may not happen, we'll be deflated, but nothing like Scotland, because he just hit the old... he made them like they're gods. Yeah. And they weren't gods. They weren't even a good football team, in all fairness. He made them out to be something unbelievable. And the Scottish people, obviously, believed the hype. Yeah. It was one of the biggest fights in the World Cup I can ever remember.
Yeah. As Simon Cowell says on the X Factor, they were deluded when the acts come on. He's like, you are, because as you say, Melvin, they really thought, I mean, I was a young kid. I was thinking, blimey, they must have a chance. And my neighbours in my street, we moved to Stevenage, and they were Scottish. And I remember we were invited over to watch the game when we all sat there, and they played Peru, Cubillas in that first game, and they were just expecting to win and march on and more flag waving, and then they come unstuck from the word go, didn't they? They lost. I think they got smashed 3-1 in that game. Cubillas outside of the right foot over the wall.
Free kick, wasn't it? Was one a free kick?
Free kick. Yeah. What sticks in my mind about it was outside of the right foot over the wall, and I'd never seen a free kick in the white kick with the red sash.
Yeah, and, that's it. That's yesterday.
Yeah. So the wheels come off.
He's talking about Lee Cubillas. He looked like a film star, didn't he?
He did. He reminded me of.
footballer.
He looked a bit like he had the Muhammad Ali about him, didn't he? Yeah. And then I think it went pear-shaped against I think it was Iran.
Yeah.
Bruce Rioch scored a penalty in the next game. So it never got going, did it? Until the famous Holland game, Richard, when probably one of the most famous memories.
Oh my God, what a game that was.
It was, yeah. I mean, I must admit, like yourself, Lee, I mean, I was only 10 years old at the time, and I kind of didn't know too much about the Scottish team. There's a couple of them that have played in England, obviously Kenny Dalglish and what have you, but I didn't know too much about the Scottish team. But I believed that they were going to win because they told me they were going to win. They were so convinced they were going to win. I actually thought they would, and I was quite surprised watching the Peru game, the first game. I remember sitting home watching it with my family and that, and being so surprised that actually I couldn't decide whether Peru were really good or Scotland were really bad. It was, I wasn't quite sure what it was, but it was a really unbelievable game of football, really. And he said that free kick was incredible. And what you got to remember is, and I think it's quite important for people nowadays, in 1978, there wasn't a lot of football on telly. You didn't get a lot of football, the FA Cup final, the European Cup final. You may have got the odd game here and there, but you didn't get much football on telly. And so we didn't know all these players, who they were. At a World Cup, this was why this World Cup was so important to me, because the first time I'd seen all these players in you might have heard names mentioned and read them in books and whatever, but actually seeing them play on your telly was just amazing experience. And even players you'd never heard of, suddenly you knew they were, and you was following them after that. Where did they play? Who did they play for?
It was mind blowing, because all we had, Richard, me and you on a Sunday, was Brian Moore, some muddy pitch from Stamford Bridge, thick mud, and that was it. And as I said before we come on air, to suddenly see this ticker tape being thrown over these massive stadiums. The stadiums you see, like the new Camp Nou, we'd never seen a stadium with. It looked like it was going up to the gods, didn't it? It was a huge stadium with a ticker tape. And I'm sitting there with my dad thinking, what's this? This is like football, really? It was like a cathedral, wasn't it, that stadium in Buenos Aires?
Yeah. But it's true to say, Lee, when I first saw that ticker tape, I've never seen it at a football before.
No, never. No.
Thinking, how'd they all know to do that? Who spoke to each other? It was like, I've never seen something so everyone does it together, It
was incredible, wasn't it?
Absolutely amazing. And it was it made the actual tournament in some respects.
No, it did. It did.
It made it for them.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, obviously from my perspective, being so young, it blew my mind, because I'd never seen anything like it before, ever. Because like Lee just mentioned there, we'd get the big match on a Sunday, match of the day, and all that kind of stuff. That was all we got. The 70s football, with which wasn't a lot of football played. Leeds were kicking lumps out of everybody, and this was what we saw on a weekly basis. As to suddenly see these players like you mentioned, that the Peru guy who scored that free kick, and all these other players, Brazil and all these great teams and great players.
Mario Kempes.
It was just incredible.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned him, Melvin, because I was scratching my head the other day thinking, I can't remember the reason why Maradona, he was 17. I remember seeing Maradona on the television play against Scotland, I think in 1979 or 80, and then played England at Wembley. So he was 17. So in theory, same as Pele was 17 in 58, he was old enough to be at the World Cup, but I think the manager thought he was a bit young. And apparently Kempes was a very similar type player. He wasn't an out-and-out striker. He was more of like a 10 drifting in. So he kind of thought, well, I've got Kempes. I don't need this guy called Maradona. So that was the reason.
Whoever he is.
Who is he? So they left him out. So you kind of think, really? I mean, he would have been mustard, but Kempes was essentially their Maradona. Yeah, same position. So that was the reason he didn't go.
You know who they had in the squad as well, who when I read about it, I read about the World Cup before it was actually on, right? And they were talking about this geezer, Barrington, I think his name was, a winger, right? And he turned up. He never really played for Argentina in the World Cup. He was the one that everyone had to look out for. Obviously, no one's done their research properly, because I think he might have played one game. I'm not even sure, because the ones that stood out was Kempes, was an amazing. He used to spin on a six-foot. And
unbelievable,
he might have his back to goal, wherever he was on the pitch. He'd spin in half a second and go 100 miles an hour straight away.
Yeah, it was very direct.
Very direct. And with his
very direct,
with his hair, he used to spin his ear, a black hair everywhere, and this geezer just
Well, our dealers as well. I mean,
what a player!
I know. Us three probably shouldn't be talking about how great, but we'll give it a pass. But he was he was a stunning footballer. He really was unbelievable. He was only small.
Nothing of him.
Nothing of him at all.
But when I watched the World Cup, I loved this World Cup. Absolutely loved it. And Spurs bought him in the summer with Villa.
That's right. Yeah.
And I thought the geezer was so good. I went by myself, sad sod. I went by myself to Tottenham's first home game of the season where they played Aston Villa just to see him live. I thought I've got to see this guy play. I thought it was amazing. They got beat 4-1 Aston Villa, so it weren't a bad night that happened. I saw play, and they got beat 4-1. And I thought to myself, I'm so happy I've done this. Because he was unbelievable. There was nothing, you could blow him over, you look like.
No, he was tiny, wasn't he?
He was stick to his feet, didn't it?
Yeah.
And he was very direct as well, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he get the ball and just run forward.
He could run. Yeah, he could run with the ball. Run so fast, low centre of gravity. But funny you say that about going to White Hart Lane. We're from Highbury originally, and I used to go to a pub called the White House. And on a Saturday, I nagged my dad to take me over. And he'd go, in a minute. And I never go. So I ended up, my neighbour took me to Spurs, right? When they were I think the season before 78, when they were in the old second division. And he turned up on a Saturday morning, knock at the door, season ticket holder at Tottenham. He opened the door. I've got Arsenal socks, shorts, top, hat, right? And to give him his due, he didn't even bat an eyelid. He just said, come on, let's go. And he took me, and I stood there watching Tottenham in my football kit. And funny enough, I was in the White Lion I know we're digressing. Sorry, Richard, off the 78, but
no, go on.
I come out of a pub in Red Lion Street just off Pentonville Road, and I see Danny Kelly, the the radio host and Spurs fan. I was telling him, he's going, really? You went to Spurs in an Arsenal kit? And I went, yeah. I'm surprised they let you in, but obviously they wouldn't now. But yeah, just a bit of a crazy old story, that football kit.
That's amazing. That is amazing, actually. I mean, you wouldn't get away with it now. They wouldn't let you in, but you probably wouldn't want to do it now anyway, would you? Because
definitely not.
Get out of there alive, probably, would you? So
but I was that keen to go to Arsenal. I thought, well, I'll just wear my football kit and go to Spurs. What can possibly go wrong?
Well, it seemed to work out okay in the end, didn't it? But yeah, I mean, Ardiles was a great player, and that, I suppose, in a way, what it was, and maybe that was part of it, because we didn't see these players very often. When we saw, because they were different type of players to what we saw in the English game at that time, wasn't they? The way that they played, like you said, running with the ball and the hair, and they just looked. They looked cool. They offered something different for us to watch that we wasn't used to seeing. And I think maybe, I mean, I've not seen much of the 78 World Cup since, actually, but I'm sure if we watched it back now, we probably wouldn't be that impressed, because we're so used to seeing players now that are the same and better. So, but at that time, it was such an unusual thing to see these type of players, South Americans.
Well, how many foreigners did we have in the league, Richard? Hardly any foreigners.
There wouldn't have been hardly any. I mean, Ardiles and Villa were two of the first ones to come, wasn't
they? Exactly, two of the first.
There
was a geezer from Birmingham, the left back, Tarantino or something.
Alberto Tarantino, that's it.
He went to Birmingham. He probably thought he was going somewhere else, didn't he? Let's face it.
Probably, yeah. But that was why it was so different. Really, in a way, and I know people out there probably love the fact that football's on telly all the time and you can see everything that's going on. But in a way, it takes away that kind of mystery.
It's more special, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable, that World Cup for me, just because I was seeing things I'd never seen before, and it was literally like, wow, what on earth is happening here? This isn't football. This is not what we see every week. This is something totally different, and it was great. It was amazing, and it was fantastic.
Well, Richard, especially as you say, when it was the first one for us at 10, and it was night after night, we're like, football's on again. Exactly. From Buenos Aires or Cordoba or Mendoza or wherever, and as you say, you're seeing. I mean, it's the football kit, so the Dutch kit, the orange kit, and the Argentina kit, and the Brazil. You know, the I think they wore the blue kit, Brazil, as well. So we'd never seen that. I suppose it was. I'm going to sound old now. Was it the first World Cup in colour, or was it 74? Probably the first one in colour.
No, 74 must have been in colour.
74 probably would have been. I don't know. I don't remember that one, but yeah, I mean, it obviously was in colour as well. Yeah, it was, and it was a colourful World Cup as well. Like you said, all those kits and the ticker tape and the crowd and everything.
Oh, it was fabulous.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was an incredible experience just to witness it.
And you know what they didn't have to do then, Richard? They didn't have to pay the fans to cheer like they're probably doing this World Cup.
No, you're right. They were quite passionate, weren't they, the Argentinians in that World Cup?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm England today. Don't forget.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience to see, and the fact that I suppose Scotland spectacularly failed in the way that they did was quite funny as well. You know, because they
were so close. I remember that match. Watching that match.
I do.
The Holland game.
I think it was a Sunday afternoon. I was at a party.
That's right. Yeah.
And we're in the garden, then we come back in the house. The football was on, so we're in and out. And we're watching it. We saw Gemmell score that goal. I don't know if the viewers ever seen it. It's one of the greatest World Cup goals ever. Yeah. Left, right, left, and just pushed it past the keeper. What a goal! And they had, I don't know how long they had to get one more goal. They'd have been through and knocked out the Dutch.
Yeah. And they had to win by 3 goals, didn't they? I think that's win by 3 goals, didn't they?
It was 3-1, wasn't it? Was it 3-1?
It ended 3-2. They were 3-1 at one point, and then they needed one more goal, and then Holland scored near the end to make it 3-2.
So once they needed one more goal to get through.
Yeah, they needed one more goal.
Right. I think it was a strike from outside. Was it Neeskin? It was from well outside the box. They were 3-1. They were 3-1 up, and you're thinking one more goal.
Yeah,
and they're through, and then suddenly it was a strike from nowhere. But the theme, I think, from memory, Richard, from that World Cup for me, and reading my old football handbooks from back in the day, was it was famous for its long range strikes. That World Cup, right? You had the Dutch team, a guy called Harry Hahn, and me and my brother. We see this goal, and he was literally just over the just through the semicircle.
I know that was against Lee.
Yeah, go on.
A story about that.
Go on then, Italy.
Right?
Yeah.
Me and my mate at work, we had some bets. We had a load of bets on the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
Different people doing our money. But once we had was Holland getting to the final of the World Cup. I don't know how we picked it out. You know, we had loads of little cross bets, right? And it was it would have been good for us. We had a good odds for it, and we're losing money on most of the other bets. Just gets out of trouble. Anyway, I'm on holiday in Italy. I'm sitting in this hotel, this enormous hotel where my uncle, Arsenal supporter, was staying. So we went and saw him. We're watching this game. And all around the edge of the room were all the Italian waiters. Right? And a lot of English guys were there watching the game. And they don't know who we want to win. We're English, who don't want to. That's who we got, the Italians, you know. Yeah. Anyway, and Italy scored that goal from Aaron Hahn or something. What's his name?
Harry Hahn.
Oh, H-A-N-N or something. And something like
that's it. Yeah.
I went, yes. And I thought, thank God I'm not eating here. So I was definitely taking my food, the waiters.
You've been in trouble.
I was getting the old piss pump. And it's fantastic. I remember that. I didn't think about it. When I sat down, I'm looking around and all these waiters are giving me a dirty look. I mean,
but he got 2 or 3 like that. And again, I don't know what it was about strikes from the out. That was from the outside of his right foot. And Dino Zoff was in goal. I mean, it must have been
Dino Zoff, that's it. Yeah.
It must have been 45 yards. And I think it went to outside of the foot, swerved, and Zoff died. And he might as well have been sitting in row Z. But I think he scored a couple others like that. And there was, when the other great goals was what's his name? Harry Hahn. Yeah, Hans Krankel for Austria. He got an unbelievable goal, like a
all these names bring back so many memories.
Hans Krankel. There was
Austria, centre forward.
Austria against Germany. But the other one that's always just stick in my head, and again, it's really weird, isn't it? You get to a certain night. I can remember sitting there. It was middle of the week. I think a Thursday night. We sat there, and it was the team in blue and white, Argentina versus the team in the other fantastic kit, the Italians. And it was 1-0. They beat him in the group. Italy beat Argentina. Roberto Bettiga. They'd done the one. So I think it was better go to Rossi, back to Becker, and he strike outside the box, and they won Italy. They beat Argentina.
That's right.
But it was an unbelievable goal, Roberto Becker. But unfortunately, they eventually went out, the Italians, didn't they? But because it was a strange format. It wasn't I say strange. I think they had the same format in '82. Well, two groups, because you basically had the famous situation where you had Argentina. I think it was Argentina, Brazil, and it was Peru. And basically, Argentina played Peru, didn't they? And they needed to win by 4 clear goals. So there was questions whether there was a bit of a, I was going to say Jules Graham then, a bung. Like someone somewhere had obviously paid them off.
Well, they lost 6-0, didn't they? Was it
6-0? They lost 6-0. They were dodgy.
The Peru goalkeeper had been born in Argentina as well, so there was a lot of stuff saying that he'd been born in Argentina. Yeah, so there was a lot of stuff going on about that. I mean, there seemed to be a lot of questions about match fixing in that whole World Cup, actually, not just that particular game. That was obviously the big one because, you know, funny, Argentina had to win by 4 goals. They win 6-0 and a goal is thrown in his own net and stuff like that. It's like, come on. You know,
they weren't trying, was they? You could tell they weren't trying, Peru.
No, not at all.
Yeah, they were definitely paid off. I mean, I think it was 2-0 at half time. You can guarantee what happened was at half time, someone from the Argentinian mafia has gone in there changing them and said, "You're conceding a few more goals in the second half, lads." And they're like, "All right, okay." And that was
they got in there and go, "By the way, boys, I know this is where you live, isn't it?"
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happened.
It's up to you. It's your choice.
Yeah, I think that might have been what happened there, but it was. There was a lot of that going on, or apparently it was a lot of that going on. We don't know, do we? We can't prove it, obviously. It seems quite obvious. We've got Brendan in the chat. He says, "Remember 78 very well. My first was 74. He said Arsenal also lost to Ipswich in the cup final. Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. Unfortunately, we still remember that very, very heartbreaking day that was. Terry says, "Evening, Richard. We'll be popping in and out as much as possible." He says, "Evening, Lee, and evening, Magic Melbourne as well." He said, "Great show with Terry the other night. Really enjoyed it. It was a good show, actually. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant memories from Highbury as well." We've got Billy in the chat as well. How you doing, Billy? Good to see you, mate. He says, "The France versus Hungary game was the game of the tournament for me. Clive Thomas performing as per usual, and the crafty Argentinian-born guy." Here we go. You mentioned him there, the Peru goalkeeper. Great World Cup of 7. No, it was a great one.
What happened in that one, Richard? I don't remember that.
No, I don't remember that. I don't
remember that. Games. It doesn't stick in my head particularly. I mean, I don't really remember.
I'll tell you what I do remember. Funny enough, Richard, seeing the name Clive Thomas, that definitely stuck in my head.
The Sweden. Yeah.
The balls in the air, like for everyone who hadn't seen it. Brazil had a corner. It was 96th minute, I think.
Oh, was that the referee?
Yeah, Clive Thomas. So the ball's in the air. Everyone goes up. Everyone's in the box. 96th minute, and as the ball's in the air, he blows the whistle. And I kind of think that's a template for how not to referee in the last minute since.
And Zico scored,
refereeing now.
He scored.
He scored with a header. Yeah, he scored. Yeah, I didn't remember. Yeah, but yeah, you kind of think, what? Surely you don't blow the whistle. And I've never seen I think from memory since a game, you know, where a referee's blown when it's been in the air. They always blow when it's not in a dangerous position, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
He was one of those referees that wanted to be the centre of attraction.
He did. No, he did. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that as well. I mean, that was one of the standout moments in the World Cup, wasn't it? Because it was something you've never seen before anyway.
No.
I didn't actually think, I'm thinking, how can they disallow that goal? How can he disallow it? But they did. And it
no VAR.
No. Well, no. But very, very strange decision that was. And that's probably the only time that's ever happened. I don't know. I don't ever remember it happening before or since.
I can't remember it. So.
But yeah, Clive Thomas was a bit like that, wasn't he? He obviously Welsh referee. That was one of the things I'd written down, actually. One of the big memories from that World Cup. One of the many strange things that happened, actually. But yeah, I don't really remember the France-Hungary game necessarily. I mean, Billy obviously must remember it well if he thinks it was a game of the tournament. I mean, that semi-final, well, sort of semi-final. It wasn't really a semi-final, but the Italy-Holland game that you mentioned before, that was a great game, wasn't it? You know, Italy were winning and then Holland came back with that great goal, as we said, and that was a really good game, wasn't it? There was obviously the Holland Scotland game was one of the highlights, obviously.
Yeah, cool.
Everybody remembers that, don't they? Everybody remember that
Yeah.
game. I was on holiday in Cornwall actually at the time, and I remember we were staying. Well, we were at some sort of friends of the family, and we were staying there in Cornwall, and everybody else was. I think there was some sort of barbecue or something going on. Everyone else was in the garden. I was literally just in front of the telly. I didn't move for 2 hours watching that game. Unbelievable. And people kept coming in and out of the house to find out what the score was, and I'm just sitting there. I'm not going anywhere. I'm watching the rest of this.
No, obsessed. Yeah, at that age, you are you're totally obsessed. My mum used to say that no one could cough in my house. Football was on. Don't cough. I don't think I was quite that bad, but it was. You were obsessed, weren't you?
Super you were. I definitely was. And that World Cup in particular. I mean, I say even being on holiday, I still watched all the games. Well, you know, when you're away on holiday, normally you'd be doing stuff and you say, "Oh, but no, I wanted to sit and watch the games because it was just incredible."
Yeah. And Richard, was that the first World Cup where you had the old in the wall, the old famous wall chart, right?
Yeah.
I always remember that, having that on the wall, and you start filling it out the first group games. You can't. I don't know about you. I got halfway through and I thought, I've had enough of this. This is like got bored of it. Didn't fill the rest of it out. But funny enough, the other day with all the rain lately, I work from home and I'm sitting and the electric goes. Obviously, a bit of some dodgy electrics going on. So I went out to the garage to flip the old fuse box, the switch back on, and in a box I had got my old programs, and there was a bit of paper shoved down the side, and I pulled it out, and it was a '78 World Cup wall chart, right, half filled in.
Got it?
Yes. Well, I've got '78 for some reason. I've got '78, '82, '90. I haven't got '86. But they're the only ones I've got. Obviously, give up the guy. Better things to do after 1990. But yeah, I've got 78, 82 in Spain, and the '90 World Cup. And I wanted to bring them in. My missus said, "You're not bringing them in. Dust and all sorts of germs. They've got to stay in the garage." But yeah, it was kind of that was the thing. I think the Italian '91 was filled out completely, but '78, mine attention span obviously didn't quite make it to the end of the tournament.
I've just found some information that I didn't know. In the Dutch-Italian game, right? You know what was so unique about that? It might have changed now since this was written. Dutch defender Ernie Brandt, remember him? Holds the unique distinction of being the only player ever to score a goal and an own goal in a single World Cup game.
Wow. Was he?
Yeah, so it says here, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So he's like the Sammy Nelson of Holland. Then.
He
put his shorts down when he scored at the other end of it. That's what he should have done.
Well, the only other player that I remember ever doing that was in the cup final, Spurs City in '81 was Tommy Hutchinson. When he scored at both ends, didn't he?
Right. He did, yeah. He did.
That's a rare club, that, isn't it?
Yeah, in the cup final it is. Yeah, it was pretty
cool. Yeah, one other thing.
Didn't Gary Mabbott score at both ends for Tottenham in the '87 cup final as well?
He scored the winner.
Yeah, Clive Allen got the first one, and then Richard Goff got the or an own goal. Yeah, Richard Goff, and then obviously Coventry got 3, didn't he? So yeah, as you say, Mabbott. That was
Mabbott got an own goal. I remember him getting an own goal.
Yeah, that was the winner, wasn't it?
Time, it was. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, straight over.
The average attendance for that World Cup, gentlemen, do you know what it was? Average attendance.
Can we have a guess, Melvin? Go on, Richard, you go first. Go on, Richard, you go first.
Average. See, obviously the Argentina games would have been big crowds. I don't think there'd have been big crowds at some of the other games. I'd say somewhere maybe 26,000.
I'll go about I'll go higher than that, maybe about 35.
No, it's higher, 42.
Wow.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, over 42,000.
I bet most of them, there was the Argentina games whacking that right up because they were
in Buenos Aires,
didn't they, for the Argentina games. I mean, I can't imagine Peru against Iran had too many fans there, did it? I wouldn't imagine.
No.
But anyway.
I'm trying to think of the most obscure team at that World Cup from memory. Well,
I know one fact from that World Cup. Tunisia became the first ever African team to win a World Cup game when they beat Mexico 3-1. And they were the first ever African team to win in the World Cup. So
Tunisia, right? Oh, right, okay.
Tunisia. Right, so they got knocked out, obviously. But.
Yeah.
Going back to Argentina, I mean, I know that I wanted the Dutch to win because I love the Dutch team.
Yeah, yeah.
But they were my second favourite team to go because they brought so much excitement to the tournament.
Yeah, they did.
And I'd say that was, which I love. They had do you remember their manager? Do you remember anything about him?
Yeah. The chain smoker.
Was his name Cesar or something?
Menotti.
Collar up. He used to have a raincoat on, collar up, and he used to smoke.
Menotti, yeah. Cesar Menotti.
And they had their captain, Argentina, was one of the hardest footballers I've ever seen.
Yeah.
You know that was?
Daniel Passarella. Yeah.
He came to England, didn't he? He played in England, didn't he?
No, I don't think he did he? I don't think so.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he played for someone like Sunderland or someone crap like that. I'm sure he did.
Did he? Oh, right. But I don't remember him doing that. But he was unbelievable. Wasn't very. Reminds me of that fantastic Italian defender, the little guy, played for years, hard as nails. Who was that? I can't think of his name.
Well, recently, Melvin. Recently,
in the 90s, 80s, 90s. 90s.
Not in the 90s. A little guy, not Baresi. I think Baresi.
Yeah.
Oh, Baresi,
he was lucky. Yeah. Remind me of him.
He was tough.
He was wicked. He was. Oh.
Yeah. Well, it was two-footed tackles then, wasn't it? It was. I think. It was all.
You was allowed to tackle him, wasn't you? You was actually allowed to tackle him one day. So,
Richard, it weren't just tackling; it was like GBH. I mean, roll it forward 4 years, and the tackle on Maradona. I think we're in Brazil. Played. Was it Brazil Argentina? And when there was he got kicked out of that World Cup.
Oh, shocking! That was horrible.
Shocking.
What about?
I think it was.
I know we're changing it a bit. I think it was the '82 World Cup with a Schumacher. Did the French
league?
He got booked. Germany, he nearly actually killed him, and he never got booked.
He did nearly kill him. Yeah, that was.
He had collapsed lungs, didn't he? I think he had 2 collapsed lungs.
Yeah, he never got booked. I mean,
it was horrendous, wasn't it? Battiston, his name was.
That's
the
it,
French midfielder. But that was proper GPH. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah. I mean, obviously we'll be moving on to the '82 World Cup next time, and that was quite a physical tournament, that wasn't it? There was on there. But I mean, there was. That's how football was then, though, wasn't it? It was a lot more. It was a lot more of a physical game, and it was a lot more, mad.
You get away with more.
Yeah, you got away with more, and maybe in a way it was more entertaining. I don't know. Some people would say it was. I quite enjoyed it.
I think also, I don't know if I'm right or not. You have to put me right. Was it because a lot years ago, especially that time, it was very nationalistic? If you played for, say, Italy, most of your players played in the same league as you, so there's no friendship, inter-friendship. So it was Italy against the French or against the English or the German. There was no we've got a few players from this league. It was so, and they never played against each other before.
No, you're right, Melvin.
There was nothing to make a friendship. It was like, I'm going to you.
There was no hugging in the tunnel before you went out, was there? Back then, and handshaking. It was basically.
They never knew each other, did they? In all fairness,
no, as you say.
No, they didn't. They didn't.
No, you make a good point. Yeah.
I want to find out this France Hungary game because that's fascinating.
3-1.
It was 3-1 to France.
I think it was to France.
Trying to remember, Melvin, some of the French players from that. Platini would have been in that team, wasn't he? The old.
He was a great player.
Great player.
Actually, it was 3-1. Yeah, it was 3-1.
I'm trying to think. Some of the other players, Bossis.
Oh, the French had a fantastic team. They had a winger called 3 letters. I'm bad at names, sorry.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Tigana, was Tigana in that team?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think 82.
I think Tigana was later, wasn't he? I think he was later, Tigana.
Bossis, there was a guy called Bossis. But what I remember about France was, I think, it was either the first or the second game of the World Cup. They played Italy and they scored. It was about 30. I did look it up earlier. I did a bit of research, and it was 31 seconds. They scored, and I'm thinking that must be the fastest goal. They went 1-0 up against Italy, and they lost 2-1. So I thought, right, I need to check another famous goal from a World Cup. Brian Robson. That was 27 seconds.
Yeah.
He beat it by 4
That
seconds.
was the fastest one, wasn't it? Brian Robson's one. It certainly was for a long time. I don't know if it still is, but it certainly was for a long time, wasn't it?
I think so, Richard. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. I literally run home from school, just got through the door. I missed, the first 10 just to see him score. So just made it.
Yeah, that kicked off early, that game. I seem to remember, didn't it? Our time, it was.
Yeah, it was about 10 to 4, quarter to 4, something like that.
Yeah, I remember getting home from school to watch that, running home from school to get.
I've literally run. I couldn't do it now, but I run for about 30 minutes. I literally got through the door, threw my school bag down, dived into the lounge to see the throw.
Yeah, that was a good World Cup actually, but I mean we'll move on to that one next time. But I mean, I don't remember that France-Hungary game at all. I must admit, it was 3-1. All the goals were in the first half. Actually, I've just seen. So the first half sounds like it would have been quite good. I'm not sure about the second half, but anyway, I don't remember that game actually at all. I don't even know if I watched it. I'm not even sure. But anyway. Obviously, Billy thought it was good, and that's fine. If he said it was good, I trust him. So I'm sure it was a good game. I just don't remember it at all. I remember that Argentina-Italy game when Italy beat them. But that was the last game in the group, and I've got a feeling that Argentina wanted to lose, so they got an easier.
Actually, you might be right. I think that was the last. Was it the last group game? So they'd already. Obviously, it must have been through. But that's the. I'd say out of all the games, that's the game that. Apart from Scotland, turning to custard, that was a game that sticks out in my head. That Argentina, because it was two fantastic teams, wasn't it? And there were a lot of good players in the Italians, and they were probably the team to beat. Argentina were kind of emerging, but as you say, maybe they weren't that bothered. Argentina, as it turns out.
Yeah, I think that they maybe felt they could get an easier draw if they came second in the group rather than winning it. Yeah, that's what I kind of felt that at the time actually, because that was I know the '82 World Cup they still played games separately. It was after that because obviously there was a bit of corruption in that World Cup as well. But
there was, wasn't it? Yeah.
One of the reasons why they changed that was that Argentina-Peru game, so that teams didn't know what they had to do before a game. Yeah. And that was one of the reasons why they eventually changed it. So the last games all played at the same time, which kind of makes sense when you look at it now. But at the time, they didn't do that. So
it's mad, isn't it? It's absolutely mad to think they know. There was a fame. I can't remember. It was 78 or 8. It might have been 82. Or 78. Well, they were passing the ball around. You remember?
That's it. 0-0.
Yeah. It was ridiculous.
That was Austria against Germany, wasn't it? And I think Austria. For both of them to qualify, Austria needed to win by a small margin. So Austria scored after about 5 minutes, and then no one bothered to play after that. And
was that 78?
Algeria got knocked out. No, that was 82.
78. That was 82, right.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was the main reason why they changed it so that all the games happened at the same time on the back of that Austria-Germany game. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That was dodgy.
I just spotted something. I looked up something. The goal scorers in this World Cup. Who's the highest goal scorer?
It was Kempes, wasn't it? Kempes.
How many did he get?
6, was it? 6 or 7?
Yeah.
He got a hat-trick, didn't he, against Peru, didn't he, in that dodgy game?
5 goals. 2 of them got 5 goals. Do you know who they were?
Bettinger.
No.
Be a Dutch player. Was it that Dutch player?
Was it Neatskins, Arihan,
Van der Kerkhoff?
No, it was Rensenbrink.
Robbie Rensenbrink.
Robbie Rensenbrink, yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember.
And also Tobias got 5 as well.
Fugulash, yeah.
Oh, the Peruvian guy, yeah.
Yeah, he got 5. And I too who got 4, who I thought was a brilliant player, Hans Krankel.
Guy.
And the one I've missed out, I remember him now. Another one that looked like a film star for Argentina, Luque,
I think he got a couple against Peru as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he got 4
in
the tournament.
Luque.
Yeah. Hey, who scored for Italy 3 goals that tournament? Paolo Rossi.
Paolo Rossi.
Yeah, Paolo Rossi. He got the golden boot in '82, didn't he?
That's it. Yeah,
that's right. After coming back from he was banned for corruption, wasn't he?
Match fixing,
for match fixing, yeah.
Funny, he was, yeah.
He come back because he was that good. They got him back early, didn't they? Seriously.
Yeah. Well, they got him back for the World Cup, didn't they? And he won in the World Cup, didn't he? '82.
Yeah.
That game again. Well, we won't talk about that. We'll talk about that another time.
No,
Melbourne. It was Tarantini that played for Birmingham.
That's what we said.
Tarantini.
Alberto, was it Sabella who played for Sheffield United?
There was a Sheffield United guy.
Sabella, again with the long hair. Tarantini played for him, didn't he? Yeah.
Tarantini was not Passarella, didn't it? It was Tarantini I was thinking of that played for Birmingham. It was Birmingham who played for.
And Alex Sabella. There was what's his name? Is it Harry Haslam? Was the old Sheffield United manager?
That's it.
So, he signed him. Yeah, it's coming back to me now. The old memory.
Yes, I remember Sabella.
Yeah, there was a few ended up playing in England in the end. I mean, it wasn't that common at the time. Even after the World Cup, even after Ardiles and Villa came, it wasn't like there was a massive influx of foreign players that came into England, was there? It was one or two.
There was no money in the game over here, Richard. That's why.
No, there wasn't. At the time, there wasn't. No.
All the decent players, if they did go abroad, it was normally Italy.
Yeah, or Spain. I suppose if they're South American.
Yeah, Spain,
if you was offered Newcastle in January or Malaga, you're probably going to go Malaga.
You probably would have done. Yeah, exactly.
No. Oh, if it's Argentinian, the mother tongue, Spain, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. No,
well, exactly. It was. I say England wasn't the place to play it anyway, was it? That's why it was quite a surprise when Ardiles and Villa came, really, wasn't it? Because it was so unexpected because it just didn't happen in them days at all, did it? And I mean, I remember that season because that was when Tottenham had just got promoted back to the Division 1, wasn't it? That was
they got relegated. Yeah.
And I remember obviously watching him on telly a few times and seeing Ardiles play and thinking, what is he doing in this country, playing in, muddy pitches, and he looked out of place a little bit, didn't he? As though he shouldn't be here. But I mean, he had a good career, didn't he? And Ricky Villa scored that great goal. Well, I say a great goal in a cup final, probably the most overrated cup final goal ever. Ricky Villa scored, but I mean, it was a decent enough goal, I suppose, wasn't it?
I'll tell you what was a good goal that he scored in an FA Cup.
Man United away.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, I remember that.
They had following goal, didn't they?
Yeah. It was a replay, wasn't it?
The keeper with his elbow. I don't think he got caught either. Not all his teeth out.
No, that was a Wednesday night sports night. I know
Alexis or something, the goalkeeper of Spurs, something like that.
Yeah, Milo Alexis.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Joe Jordan done him, and yet Spurs still had Joe Jordan on their staff a few years later. That's what they like.
They did.
Yeah, he was linking it back to '78. Jordan played for Scotland in '70. He was famous for taking the teeth out when he's false teeth. He looked fearsome, didn't he, Joe Jordan?
He was fearsome, and then he tried to knock other people's teeth out, didn't he?
He did, Probably as a revenge. Probably as a revenge for his. But he scored. I think he scored for Scotland against Iran, didn't he? In '78 in that 1-1 draw. I think it was him that scored, wasn't it? I'm sure he scored a goal in one. Joe Jordan scored. I'm sure he scored a goal in one of the games. Or was it against Peru? He might have scored against Peru, actually.
Did Scotland knock out Wales in that World Cup qualifier?
Yeah, Ninian Park. Yeah, that was.
I think he scored in one of those games, Richard. Jordan against Wales.
Yeah, he might well have done. I think he did, because then the second leg was at Anfield, wasn't it? Because they couldn't play. They couldn't play in Scotland or something, so they played at Anfield. It was something like that. I know Scotland and Wales played at Anfield. I can't remember why now.
I can't remember why, but it was a big controversy. It went over the goal. They were saying it was offside. Yeah. But Wales eventually got there. 44 years later.
Joe Jordan scored against Peru in that World Cup. The first goal for Scotland. They went 1-0 up in that game and then lost 3-1, which was quite funny. So he did score in that game. Yeah, I knew he got one in one of them.
There was a penalty against Iran. I think it was either Don Masson or Bruce Rioch scored in Iran the next game. I think Scotland got a penalty.
That was an own goal, apparently.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was a pen. Sure, it was a pen.
Eskandarian scored an own goal for Iran.
What am I thinking of then? I'm sure they got a penalty in that World Cup. Either Rioch or Don Masson took it, but sure
the only penalty they scored was Archie Gemmill against Holland, his first goal.
Oh, right, okay.
But anyway. Actually, what was it? I've just looked at the Scotland-Holland game. I didn't realise this, right? Scotland, when they went 3-1 up, was in the 68th minute when Archie Gemmill scored that great goal, taking it around half the
and they needed time.
And you're right, Melvin. They needed one more goal, but Holland scored their second goal in the 71st minute. So just 3 minutes later,
they killed it.
Yeah, they were only in it for 3 minutes. I seen
3 minutes. Yeah, I remember that. No, I remember.
Straight after, virtually.
What
Straight
probably
after,
happened, Richard? I know what probably happened. They scored the third goal, Scotland, right?
Threw everything forward.
No, McLeod said, we're definitely going to win this now.
He probably did, yeah. I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I do think their World Cup song was one of the greatest ever World Cup songs that year. You have to say.
We're on the March of Ali's Army.
You've got to see this documentary about it. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Like a religion. Like a religion.
It was. I think I watched it about 2 years ago, Melvin.
That's about 2 years. It must be.
Yeah, and it brought back memories of the before they went out to Argentina. I think they done an open top bus parade around Hamden to the airport. I'm sure they did.
Before,
before
I think they did.
Before,
actually, yeah.
I'm sure.
I think they
went
did,
around. They went around Hamden Park, open top bus parade, all the way to the airport. That was in the days. That was in the days where bus parades. I think we done a bus parade when we lost to Ipswich down Blackstock Road.
I remember that.
You imagine supporters now saying, "Well, we lost. Do you want to turn up for the parade?" But we'd waited 7 years for a cup final, so everyone was turning up, waving flags, and we'd lost to Ipswich the day before. There you go.
Well, I think they'd arranged it thinking we were going to win, and then they thought, "Oh, we'll just go ahead of it anyway now. We can all arrange. Let's just do it anyway."
Yeah.
They certainly don't do that nowadays,
you get knocked out in the World Cup, which you didn't believe you'd get knocked out. You go home, you ain't got home to go to.
No.
Yeah. Exactly.
What do you do?
Yeah. I mean, incredible, really. But yeah, I do remember that bus parade that Scotland did before the World Cup. It was on I remember seeing it on the news, thinking, "This is brilliant." This, I actually believed it. I actually thought they were good. I thought they might win this.
It was the song. I know we keep going on about the song, but it just all of us can hear that song, can't we?
It was brilliant. It was the greatest World Cup song, and everyone was singing it, wasn't they? You know, on the terraces in the next few seasons, weren't they? Everyone was singing it and changing the lyrics, obviously, to fit your team out of Wembley and stuff like that.
Richard, the funny thing for me is right now, I was proper in love with football when I was a kid. I loved the game, right? And I hear supporters now. They go, "I hate this team, I hate that team." And I was like, to me, it was about the football, right? It was never about, it was about the beauty of the game without sounding too sycophantic, right? So when Scotland were playing, I wanted Scotland to win. There was no like, "Oh, they're Scottish, I hate them." It was, well, they're from here. I recognise, Kenny, that I want Scotland to win. As you get older and you see people, like, I heard Jason Cundy the other day talking about, "I hope Wales come bottom." I'm thinking, and we all know, let's be honest, Scotland don't want us to win ever, right? But even so, I still, if I watch Scotland, Wales or Ireland, I want them to win. And I'll never change. And people will say, "Oh, you're a mug. They don't support us." But it's kind of, for me, it's football. It's in there. So I go with the heart. I want them. I'm making exceptions, obviously.
You've got to remember, when you were growing up like me, Arsenal had a lot of Scottish players in the team, a lot of Irish players in the team.
Irish players, exactly. Yes. So I want them to do well.
Yeah, I mean,
they weren't in the team at the time.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of felt the same, but the only thing was, I remember, I think it was the year before when the Scottish fans had run onto Wembley pitch and broke the goal post and all that kind of stuff. I think that was the year before, and I remember that. I mean, I was only young, but I remember seeing that on the telly and on the news and stuff. So I kind of didn't want them to do well because of you smashed up our pitch. I don't like you.
I get it. I get it, and we lost, didn't we?
Yeah, we lost. Yeah, and they'd done that. So I wasn't overly, I didn't overly want Scotland to do well, but I believed they were going to do well because I believed all the hype coming from Scotland and Ali McLeod. And I really thought they were world beaters. And you see them playing when they played for. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I thought they were meant to be good.
No, I must be quite forgiving, Richard, because I remember that game at Wembley, the Dalglish fruit, and again. I don't know what, maybe back in the 70s, a lot of people from Scotland come down to London, Stevenage, where I lived. In our street, there were about 4 Scottish families. And I remember we lost that game at Wembley, and they was out and they were giving a stick, and England, celebrating. And my dad saying, "This is what they're like. This is what the Jocks are like. I hate the English." And even, I still, a year later, I'm still cheering them on. I was like, I must be mad.
I was cheering them against Holland. I don't know why, because I always liked Holland. But
we all were at the party. We all were.
Yeah,
I got some back with you as well. They did win something, Scotland, in the World Cup. They got a record rather. They had someone sent home for dope.
Yeah, Willie Johnson, wasn't it? Willie Johnson.
Willie Johnson, yeah. Yeah, what was that? Do you remember what that was? Was it some
Drug
sort of
test.
diuretic drug? Yeah. But what it was, the drug?
I don't know what it was. I'm sure he said it was some sort of hay fever medication, didn't he?
That's right, yeah.
And obviously, it was whatever it was a banned substance. It seems strange, doesn't it? There was so much corruption in that World Cup, so much and they sent him home for having hay fever.
I know.
And after they'd lost to Peru as well, it's like, really? You know what I mean? What's that all about?
Yeah. The wheels. That's right. The wheels properly came off, didn't they? That was a big thing, wasn't it?
It was a big thing. It was on the news all the time, wasn't it? Yeah, it was a big thing. It was.
This is a weird thing that happened. We never knew. France beat Hungary, this famous game that I never heard of. Beat Hungary 3-1.
Yeah.
But only after the referee had threatened to make them forfeit the match for not wearing the correct kit. Please fetch the kits of the local second division side and wearing it. France won 3-1. I don't remember that.
I think I remember that.
I do remember that. Yeah,
I remember that now. I didn't know it was that game, but I do remember that.
I do remember that. Yeah,
I do remember.
They played in a stripe. Didn't they play in a stripe? They played in a striped kit, France, didn't they? One of the teams. They both turned up with white kits, I think. One of them played in a stripe.
No. Now you mentioned that. Actually, I do remember that. I didn't know it was that game, but actually, I do remember that now. That's incredible. What a fantastic memory that is. It's amazing the things that when you hear something, it makes you think back.
Jogs your memory, because as I say, when you're out and about and you're chatting about World Cups, there's not many people who remember the '78 World Cup. It's got few and far between. So you ain't going to get the memory jogged, are you?
No,
I don't think Villa was in the World Cup squad.
No, he was.
I'm not sure.
I think he was. I don't think he played though, did he? I think he was. I'm
looking at the squad here, Richard. I can't see his name.
Oh, he wasn't in. I'm sure he was in the squad.
I thought he was. I
cannot see it in the squad, and I've got the 1978 winning squad in front of me. I cannot see.
Unless he was injured, he might have been injured. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe he was. Yeah,
I assumed that he was. It was France. Lee played in a green and white striped kit against Hungary. It was in the end. The green and white striped kit from the local Sunday league. Yeah.
I can't remember why. I can't remember. Was it? I'm sure. Was it something to do with the television? Was it?
I can't remember. I do remember that
with colour. Yeah, they were saying.
If they were playing in stripes, they worried about the vertical hole going wrong.
Yeah. I think it was something.
The television used to go wrong years ago. Every 2 minutes.
Oh right, yeah.
The referee was Brazilian, by the way. I don't know if that's significant, but anyway.
It's amazing, isn't it? Talking about corruption, here we are, like 44 years later, and the president of FIFA, I was hearing today, where's he spent living for the last 18 months? Gianni Fantani, whatever his name is.
Is it Bermuda or Bahamas or something?
No, he lives in Qatar. The president of FIFA has spent the last 18 months living in Qatar, and I think, what's his name, Hawksby and Jacobs, Andy Jacobs was saying that he's just been re-elected for another 4 years, and that's, believe it or not, that's from the 4 years starts from the 2026 World Cup. So how they put it is his mouth's in the trough for another 8 years.
I bet that house he's living in Qatar, I bet it's free. I bet he hasn't got to pay for it.
No, exactly. But I mean, it's all that hoo-ha. I remember 7 years ago listening to all the nonsense about Plata and what's his name? Platini, Sepp Blatter, and Colin Murray going, it's horrendous, and this corruption's got to stop, and there's going to be a revamp of FIFA. And here we are 7 years later, and the head of FIFA lives in Qatar, and he's lived there for 18 months. So what does that tell you about the way our games run?
Well, when probably the people of Qatar could see what's went on in this World Cup, but all the corruption in the Argentina World Cup, go, hold my beer. They must have gone. We're showing corruption.
Yeah.
Have you seen that program, Lee, on called FIFA,
Netflix.
something to do with FIFA on Netflix. Have you seen it?
No.
Oh, Lee, you got to watch
seen it.
I've only seen one out before, and it's blown my mind. Honestly,
No, I haven't watched it yet.
I want
to watch
it.
You're
on the fence. You're not sure if you should watch it.
It's going to make me angry, though, isn't it, Melvin? It's going to make me angry.
I know.
It will make you angry, Richard. I know it will. Definitely.
Yeah. This is the problem,
Absolute
right?
sickening.
It's once every 4 years, right? And I don't know you guys, I'm barely bothered about the World Cup. It should be in the summer. It was criminal when they pulled those names out 12 years ago. They've gone Russia, and you're going, aye, Russia. Who's next? Qatar. I'm like, you got some front. You got more front than Brighton, you guys, haven't you?
Yeah.
Surely, I mean, it was so obvious, but they got away with it, didn't they?
I don't think I've heard about Qatar before they got the World Cup. I didn't realise they were a country.
Well, I didn't realise they were even. I didn't even realise they had a national team.
Another country, honestly, no idea at all. I know it's nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense.
It is nonsense, and they award it in the summer, and then they go, hang on a minute, maybe it's too hot in the summer.
Yeah,
we better move it. We better move it.
You know what it's like? I've said it before, Lee. It's like England, the UK, London getting the Winter Olympics, isn't it?
It's that ludicrous. That's no less ludicrous. That decision. They might as well award the Winter Olympics to Brighton. I mean, it's just ludicrous, isn't it? It's ludicrous.
It'd probably be quite good in Brighton, though. It'd probably be quite good, I reckon, the Winter Olympics in Brighton.
Actually, maybe we've stumbled upon something there, but as we all know, money makes the world go round. But it's just disheartening, isn't it? Yeah, when we think back to these World Cups, you want to talk about whether it's Spain or whether it's Argentina or Italian night, and we're all watching the programs that are on, and you just feel you're thinking, I've wasted 4 years. That's what it feels like. Other people may disagree, and they say it's great that's in the Middle East, but I don't think people, probably our generation, are just going to be shaking their head, right?
It could be in other Middle East countries. If you want the Middle East, fair dues, but other country that plays football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Iran or whoever, but
Egypt.
not, as you say, Egypt. Yeah, exactly. But it's just it is disheartening. It really is. But what are we going to do?
To be honest with you, I mean, I think all of us, we grew up looking forward to the World Cups, you know what I mean? And all those great memories that, we want to look back over on this show and stuff like that. But it's like this World Cup now, I don't even care. I'm not even going to watch it. I'm not even interested in it at all. I'm just not interested. You can't have a World Cup in November and December. That's not a World Cup, is it? It's just
no, it's not.
Absolutely ridiculous. And to be honest with you, I think what needs to happen is everybody shouldn't watch it. And then if they don't get the audiences in, if they don't get the TV audiences, if they don't get people,
they'll learn the lesson.
Hopefully they will, because the only way you can do it is to hit them in the pocket. It's no good doing anything else.
They won't. You're right.
Allegedly, the people that get the brown envelopes will still get their brown envelopes. Whatever
of course they will.
Watch it.
Yeah.
So
they will. Yeah. I mean, they don't care if people watch it or not, do they? They're actually not bothered. They're not bothered.
They've got the old brown envelopes.
Yeah. No, as you say, they're enjoying their ill-gotten gain. There's people out there now sitting in a nice, great big villa, maybe in the south of France.
Cigar on.
A cigar saying, and there's England fans flying out to Qatar paying, $5,000 a week to stay in some hut, and they can't get a drink.
Yeah,
and have more money than brains, these people.
Yeah, exactly. There's no way I'd go out there. Not a chance.
No, absolutely no way. No.
I mean, at least the next World Cups will be all right, Richard. Right? I mean, Mexico, America, and Canada, and that'll be all right. I mean, obviously Europe will be better for us, but I still think that's going to be a better World Cup, isn't it? The next one, 2026.
Yeah, well, it should be. Hopefully, Biden and England have got a better manager, and we might have a chance of winning it, which would be nice.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah. Take the handbrake off a little bit.
Through the hat in the ring. Through the hat in the ring tonight to be England manager.
Pochettino.
Pochettino.
Yeah.
Has he?
Yeah.
You see, I can see the benefit of that, because I don't think he's a very good manager. I know, obviously, we didn't like him when he was doing quite well at Spurs, but I think he's a very good manager. But for me, you've got to have a manager that's English to be England manager, really.
Yeah.
I think you should have.
Yeah. I agree with that. I agree. It sounds a bit old school, and people come, oh no, it doesn't really matter. But surely to God, the effort of winning something, it's like the England cricket team got the Kiwi guy in charge, or you know, or back to Fabio Capello. Surely the effort must come. I don't think it's xenophobic to say the effort must come from the country that you're representing. Otherwise, what's the point? You know, what's the point?
If manager, if Newcastle want to, he's done very well there, manager. Let's face it,
he's done brilliant. Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, he's done brilliant. Yeah,
at the moment, he could be with our manager of the season.
Yeah,
but if they suddenly had this thing in their mind, we've got to get a world-star manager who may not be as good as the one they currently got, but some clubs do that, then he could be a nine for England manager, couldn't he?
Easy, yeah. And why not? You wouldn't really knock him.
Exactly. I wouldn't mind him as England manager.
No, I wouldn't.
He ticks all the boxes for me.
Yeah, he does. He does. And I think you're right. I mean, it's like, you know, you can't have, for example, an Argentinian playing football for England. So why should you be able to have an Argentinian manager be manager of England? There should be some sort of rule to say that you can only have people representing your country that have got nationality for that country. They've got a passport for that country. Surely it's got to be the same for playing as it has for managing. It's got to be.
It's common sense, especially for a country like England. There's 60, 70 million people here, and you're saying we can't. You're basically saying the England cricket team are saying we haven't got anyone English who can coach our football team, and our cricket team, and the same with football with Sven and Capello. You know, supposed to be the home of football, and we can't come up with an English coach. Really?
Yeah, we can't come up. We've got all these, as you say, all these people in the country. We can't come up with a person to wear a tie correctly.
I know. I know. It's just.
It is.
Yes.
I think it should be the same rules for managers as it is for players at international.
Yeah, exactly.
It should be.
Exactly.
You can't represent a country if you've got no connection to that country. If you've got no passport to that country, you shouldn't be able to represent them at anything, because that's what international sport's about, isn't it? It's about this country against that country.
Of course it is. Of course it is. I mean, look at the Fabio Capello thing. Just like laughable. Yeah. He could barely speak English.
I know we're going a bit obscure, but the Capello thing that made me laugh, to say that they haven't got a clue, the FA, is they doubled his contract just before the World Cup in case we win the World Cup. Well, hold on a minute. If we win the World Cup, worry about it then.
I know.
They were worried that someone was going to pinch him. That was why.
Yeah, but he hasn't proven anything.
No, I agree. No. Stupid madness. Absolutely.
No.
And you think,
say, for example, they do pinch him. Say we win the World Cup and they do pinch him, whoever it is.
We're not going to struggle to get manager. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, we just
and we're not going to struggle getting them. We're not gonna, who cares? Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's strange, isn't it? Because, you know, now you would actually struggle to find a good English manager, simply because most of the Premier League, the top clubs,
are foreign managers.
Have foreign managers, don't they? But yet, when we're going back to the 70s, for example, I mean, Brian Clough was never even picked as England manager, and there were great English managers that didn't even get to manage England. Whereas now, pretty much any English manager who does half decent is going to be in the shout of getting a job, because there's no competition.
Exactly.
What was the last English manager to win the top league with us?
Howard Wilkinson.
How long ago was that? 20 years?
92.
The season before the Premier League,
Yeah, the last year of the old First Division.
Yeah.
But as I say, back in the day, 70s, the 80s, English, Brian Clough, a lot of Scottish managers, didn't you? And we had Terry Neal, and there was
Scottish runs was brilliant. Shankly.
Shankly.
Was a great manager.
Yeah. Obviously, Liverpool had Bob. I was just going to say that Liverpool had Bob Paisley. That's some unbelievable managers, didn't they?
Bobby Robson. I know he did manage England later on, but Bobby Robson was a great manager, wasn't he?
No, he was unbelievable. Well, even what's his name? To be honest, the best document for anyone watching this podcast, the best documentary I've seen, and it's probably, I was the same age as you, Richard, at the time, about 17. Kind of, I'll say, a golden age for football, but obviously it was mid 80s and hooliganism was rife. But that Everton team, right, in the mid 80s, right?
What a documentary!
What a document! Howard
everything. It's absolutely brilliant. That it is
right. The music and all the music from the time, and Sheedy, and the story about Adrian Heath, when he scored the goal at Oxford in the Milk Cup, and they come back, and suddenly Graham Sharp, Adrian Heath, Peter Reid, and it was honestly, it moved me. I remember watching it, thinking, I remember when football was like, they were great team.
One of the greatest.
Howard's Heroes, was it called?
Howard's Way.
Howard's Way. That's it.
Howard's Way.
Yeah.
That
was one of the greatest teams I've ever seen. That Everton team. They were just amazing, weren't they?
Amazing.
I've got a question for you too.
Go on then.
Was it Adrian Heath? I think it was him. He got done. He couldn't play for England because he got done by a player just before. Was it Heath? I'm thinking of. I think it was him. Who done him? Do you remember? And the captain of Peter Reid goes, he got done, and I went and done this player straight away.
That's right. Yeah.
Who was the player?
Was it wasn't Norman Whiteside, was it?
No, someone who played for the Arsenal.
Right, hang on a minute. Give us a second, Melvin.
I was shocked because this geezer is not a dirty player, and he's not. Didn't play for us in midfield either.
Was it Steve Williams? Was it?
No, he's a dirty player. Steve
Williams was great, though, wasn't he? Steve Williams was great.
Mr. Two-footed, wasn't he? Steve Williams.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He didn't care, Steve. He didn't care.
No,
it was one of our players. Was
who it was? Did I tell you?
Well, hang on. Was he?
He was in a championship-winning team with us.
Kevin Richardson.
Right. Okay.
No,
because he played for Everton.
Okay, right. So I'd say it was someone like, wasn't Brian Marwood?
It was.
It was Brian Marwood. Oh, right. That's it. Yeah.
Brian Marwood, really?
Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, he played for Sheffield Wednesday before he came to the Arsenal. That was.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He did Heath. Whether he meant to do him, but he clattered into him.
Yeah, he wasn't a dirty player. He was a winger, wasn't he, Brian Marwood?
So Peter Reid then went and done Brian. Is that why? Because Brian Marwood had dodgy knees, didn't he, when we got him?
Yeah.
That's
right.
That was why.
He didn't play for us for that long, did he?
No, he didn't.
No.
He got bad injuries, didn't he? His knee was knackered.
Yeah.
The song just comes to mind. Remember the song? Brian Marwood. Brian Marwood on the wing.
My favourite game of his, we was that Nottingham Forest away game in that season.
Oh, he was
when he ran through from the halfway line and scored that goal.
Yeah.
Keeper. That was what a game.
Yeah.
That was my favourite game.
What was it? 4-1.
4-1. Yeah. That was brilliant.
It's just come back to me, that song after 30 years. The Brian Marwood. Where did that come from?
It's just all stored away in the brain, isn't it?
I know.
All these things are just in there.
Well, it is. I know it's funny. I've got a book up there. It's about. I think I bought it at the airport when I last went on holiday about hooliganism in the 80s. A guy was, and it's funny to mention it. The same guy, Melvin, was on that one of the documentaries about Italian 90. You know, the undercover cops went out to Sardinia.
Yeah, that's right.
To get amongst the England fans. And this guy, he was, because I recognised his name. He was in the book. I think it was called. Book was called "I Followed the Firm," and he got involved with the Millwall firm in the late 80s. Right.
I remember that.
Right.
There's a documentary about that.
Exactly, and he basically went all over London with them to give the police information, and he came to Highbury.
Oh my God!
Well, but he came. Do you remember we played Millwall at Highbury at '88 in the FA Cup? I think they had Sheringham and Cascarino. I was 20 and I was in the North Bank, and we were standing there, and about 10 Millwall fans got over the clock end onto the pitch, and they went along the pitch past the West Stand, trying to think, the West Stand, and they climbed into the North Bank. And I'm thinking, are you sure? There were 7,000 supporters in the North Bank. You had about 11 Millwall climbing into the North Bank. I'm thinking, and one of them, when I read the book, was the copper, because they said, right, you're coming with us. This is a test. Let's go into the North Bank. It was actually the copper who was on the England documentary the other night. So I'm sitting there reading this book, thinking, I remember thinking, surely they're not going to climb in. And the North Bank just moved like this. These ludicrous.
I remember that game actually. I think I was in the East Stand in the seats that day, but I remember that. There was all talk before the game, wasn't it? They were going to come and nick the clock from the clock end and all that kind of stuff.
That's right. That? Yeah. I do. Now you say it. Yeah, they were threatening all sorts, weren't they?
But they were. Yeah, I remember that. And we beat them, didn't we? Which was good.
Yeah. Sheringham, Terry Erlock, Tony Cascarino, George Graham was the manager, I think.
He
wasn't. No, he swapped. He was our manager then, wasn't he?
It was his team. He pretty much built that team, hadn't he? They got promoted, and obviously he'd moved to us, and then we played against him a couple of times.
I think they beat us 2-0.
No, we won. We won.
No, we beat them 2-0. I think we beat them 2-0.
The game I'm thinking of with the geezer who scored us for Millwall in the last minute went to Liverpool on the wing.
Kennedy.
That's it, Kennedy. That was a different game, was it?
That was the FA Cup game. That was miles of years later. That one. That was FA Cup replay.
Right.
That was in the 90s. That one. I remember that. When he scored that goal. Yeah, at the clock end, wasn't it?
Mark Kennedy. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that game. That wasn't a great memory, was it? Losing to Millwall. Wasn't that in? I think that was the season that George Graham got sacked. I think that was his last FA Cup game actually, as manager. That Millwall.
Yeah, I think you're right. 90 was it 94?
95. I think it was 94.
95. Yeah.
Because we played them 2 years running, didn't we? Because we won one. I remember scoring a lot. I went to the New Den, we played them, and in the FA Cup, Tony Adams scored a last-minute winner. And I remember thinking, just before he scored, we don't want to score now because we're going to get killed coming out of the ground. And then Tony Adams went and scored. I'm like, oh, cheers, Tony. Nice one, mate.
But let's face it, Richard, they don't need an excuse to beat us.
No, they don't need an excuse. No, but that was an extra excuse, wasn't it? The fact that we'd scored a last-minute winner. No. When we went mental and celebrated it, and then we're thinking, oh, actually, we've got to get home now.
Yeah. Well, that was it. I don't think young kids would quite appreciate back then. You was almost thinking, oh, no, we don't want to score.
Some games you were. Some games you literally were.
Oh, God, because, the level of threat. I was telling my missus, I went to Chelsea. I went to Stamford Bridge, I think, 85, when Charlie Nicholas scored for us, and we lost 2-1.
Yeah.
I think it was early in the season when I got locked in, and it was... we got locked in at the away end, and they had big gates at Chelsea, didn't they? In the away end, steel gates. And I remember getting crushed and I was about 17, thinking, I can't breathe. This is. I was looking around, thinking, why isn't everybody panicking? This is terrifying, right? Yeah. And I eventually opened the coppers, and they were screaming to open the gates, but the coppers didn't open the gates because Chelsea were waiting outside, so they were waiting for them to get bored.
Was that after the game?
That was after the game, but we were kept in for about 45 minutes. And
then, we always were at Chelsea, weren't we? We was always kept in.
Always, and eventually I got out, and I remember saying to Katie, my missus, I said, I remember thinking, surely this ain't right. There's something wrong. They can't do it. You know what it was like back in the day? You were penned in, and it obviously 4 years, I think it was the following year we had Heysel, and then obviously Hillsborough 4 years later. But there must have been so many situations in the 70s and the early 80s when people were thinking, I remember looking around thinking, why am I'm the only one panicking here? This can't be right. This is not normal. No, everyone you should just accept it, didn't they?
Yeah, I remember a game at Tottenham. That might have been 85, perhaps, at Tottenham away. It was a night game. And we were standing behind the goal at the Park Lane end, in the away end. And I remember Tottenham fans started throwing stuff into our end. Like, I think it was snooker balls or something like that, right?
Nice.
And
nice.
So what happened was a lot of Arsenal fans started to climb up into the seating section at the back, because, they used to have seats, didn't they, at the back of the away end at Tottenham.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was loads of Arsenal fans climbed up there. And I remember we got up there. Arsenal sort of helping people up. So we got up into the seating section. And when we got in there was so many people now in that seating section, literally people on top of each other's laps and everything like that, right?
Yeah.
After the game, we were coming out, and there was far too many people in the little stairwells coming out. And literally, my feet wasn't on the ground. He was like that. I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
No. If there'd been anything happening, if there'd been any sort of panic, that'd have been it.
Yeah,
there'd have been people dead. People would have been dead. Absolutely no doubt about it in my mind. Looking back, obviously, when you saw it happen at Hillsborough, and I can just remember that so clearly, because at the time I'm thinking, shit, this ain't very good. This ain't a lot of fun. And finally, we all managed to get out, and we was fine.
Yeah.
But had there been any sort of panic or anything happened then, if someone fell over or tripped over or something.
No, that would have been it. If you think about it, Richard, it was only a matter of time, wasn't it? It was only a matter of time.
And I think that's why when all of us, when we saw what had happened at Hillsborough that day, when we were seeing the footage of the news, I think every single one of us that had ever been to football knew that could have been us.
It could have been us.
Over the previous 10 years, we knew we'd been in situations like that ourselves, and we knew it could have happened to us. And that's why it hit us so hard, I think, everybody. And that's why the whole of football reacted the way it did, because every single person who'd ever been to a game knew.
I'd been in that situation many times. Regularly. Regularly.
Every week, pretty much.
Yeah. I used to go to a lot of away games, but one that really worried me, I went to Palace with my uncle, right? And at the end of the game, we got up to go, and we were in the seats, right? And it's very small, the seats section. It was made of wood. And it took us about 20 minutes to get out. There was a little, literally He said to my uncle, I said, "It's all quiet here. We're roasted. We cannot get out."
Yeah,
No,
I was thinking panic as
actually,
well.
yeah, Palace was quite bad actually getting out of Palace. Yeah, I can
I think
remember.
it was Palace.
Yeah.
2 seconds.
yeah,
I've got to say a man about a dog. 2 seconds.
All right, but every
Yeah,
week,
yeah.
Richard,
Yeah.
you put you didn't realise you were doing it, but you're putting your life in your hands.
Yeah.
You were taking a risk.
But you never believed it. See,
you were
the thing was,
lucky.
until Hillsborough happened, you never believed it was possible to happen.
No, it's never happened before. So what's happened now?
Yeah, you always assumed you'd be okay, didn't you? You never thought
that's
anything
why
would
it's never
happen.
happened before.
Yeah,
your brain was telling you one thing, but your out of body was telling you something else.
Yeah. I mean, so many times, that was the one thing about Hillsborough that really, I think, hit everybody, didn't they? Because we all knew that we'd been there ourselves so many times, and just it was luck. That's all it was. It was actually luck.
Of course, it was luck.
It was no other reason. It literally was luck. And yeah, I mean, that is, I mean, the one good thing. I mean, I don't really like all-seater stadiums. I don't really like all that what's happened, but the one thing now is at least you can say that. I mean, football fans still aren't treated particularly well, but we're not treated as badly as we were back in the 80s and the 70s, when basically the government hated football fans. They didn't really want football fans to be going to games, did they? They would have been quite happy to have shut it all down. And we got treated like pretty much herds of animals, didn't we? You'd be herded out of the station, herded into the ground, put in pens and stuff like that. Ridiculous. How humans could be treated like that just to go and watch the football team? Ridiculous.
And what also with Sheffield Wednesday, Hillsborough, the year before Liverpool played, they might have played Forest again. I can't remember.
Yeah, they did. It was Forest. Yeah, that's right. It nearly happened then as well.
That year, it nearly all kicked off.
Nearly happened then as well. You're right.
And the chairman of Sheffield Wednesday went, no problem.
Yeah,
there was recommendations. He didn't want to listen to anyone.
Well, what they said was, didn't they? I think because of what had happened in '88, that what they said was they were going to give Liverpool fans the other end, the Cop end at Hillsborough, because it was bigger, and that was what they were going to do. But they turned around and said, no, we'll stick as it was last year. And of course, we know what happened. Yeah, I remember it happening the year before, very similar, wasn't it? It just wasn't, obviously, didn't go to that extent.
When did Celtic Rangers have that horrible thing? Thing?
Yeah.
When was that?
I think was that in the 70s? I think that was
earlier before that, yeah. And they never done nothing about it, did they? The football authorities. They didn't say, we've got to change things. Look what's happened here. People have died.
Yeah, they didn't really care, Melvin. Working class game, we weren't bothered, were they?
Well, they just looked on football fans as an inconvenience anyway, didn't they? So, look at the way you'd get the train to an away game, right? You'd get the worst possible trains that they were about to bin off because they were crap trains. They had no lighting, all the lights had been smashed, they had no windows in them. And they'd give us to the football fans to go to football matches. It was fine. Do you know what I mean? They stuck us on all them trains. That were probably the break
football special. The football special, wasn't it? It was called, wasn't it?
Football special, yeah. It cost about 50 pence to return to Liverpool.
Lee, it's football unspecial. The trains were.
Football, very unspecial.
Yeah, they wasn't very special at all, were they? But it used to be a laugh, though, didn't it? But you probably liked it every single time you went to football, weren't you? I mean, to be honest, if my mum knew what football was like when I started going in the 80s, she wouldn't let me go. Absolutely no chance she would let me go.
No.
I
mean, apparently it was. I mean, obviously I was too young. Worse in the 70s, but I had just closed my door. A mate of mine, but my old football manager. He's about 10 years older than me, so he used to go in the 70s, and he said, we always got involved. There was always aggro going on at train stations. He said, no one ever actually hit anyone. It was all threats. It was all kind of. He goes, I think I actually connected with someone once by mistake. I couldn't believe it. In 10 years of hooliganism, someone got hit. He goes, I'm sure it was an accident, but it was all like, come on in. It was like laughable, really. But
I think in the 80s, I think in the 80s it was a bit more serious, actually. I mean,
it was.
I saw some
more organised, wasn't it?
Horrible things in the 80s. I remember FA Cup semi-final against Man United '83 in Villa Park. Literally, I don't even know how I got out of that game alive. Honestly,
no, it was nasty.
We were in this multi-story car park. Right? There was loads of Man United fans everywhere, and me and my mate, I was about 15, I think I was 14 or 15. And we were trying to get back to the station after the game, and there was like Man United fans everywhere, was running riot. Any Arsenal fan was absolutely getting shafted. And I don't know how we found ourselves in this multi-story car park in the middle of Birmingham city centre, right? And literally there were Man United. It was kicking off everywhere in this multi-story car park. I mean, mate, I remember we were crouching down behind this parked car, thinking, you know, if we get found here, we are going to. We were going to die. There's absolutely no question about it. Luckily, you know, it must have died down, and in the end, we just managed to get back to the station. But that was when you're 14 years old. That was
scary.
That was pretty scary. Yeah,
yes.
Really
scary.
And that had come on the back of we played them in the League Cup semi-final. We played them at Highbury, and I remember on the underground going to Highbury that night. It was Man United fans. The whole train was full of Man United fans, just giving it a big, and it was horrible. They were all Londoners as well. They hadn't come from Manchester, but they were Manchester United fans, and that was a horrible night. That it kicked off everywhere. And I was about I must have been 13 or 14 then, and seeing that on the train, it was like wow. That's the first time I've really been aware of, I think, actual football violence really happening right in front of me. Do you know what I mean? It was all around. That was horrible.
It was horrible. I mean, that age, you just want to go and watch the football and come home.
You know what I mean? You want to go and watch the football, and you're seeing all this going on. It was scary actually. But I say, if my mum had known what was going on, there's no way I'd have been allowed to go.
You wouldn't have gone.
Me and my mate used to go. I didn't used to go with my family or anything. I used to go with my friend from school. We used to go together, and if I say my mum knew what was going on, there's absolutely no way.
You wouldn't have been going. No.
No.
That hair would have been standing on end. I've got to go, guys, because I'm supposed to be out. I'm half an hour late, so I have to disappear, Richard.
All right. No problem at all. It's been a pleasure.
It's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed it. I've plenty to say on the 82 one. If you do the 82 one, I'll be doing
that next week. Actually, I'll be doing 82 next week if you're around.
All right. Yeah. Definitely. That's probably got even more memories.
I am as well. I was a bit older by then. And
exactly.
And England were as well, of course, which made it even better.
Of course there was, plenty to talk about. All right, lovely. Melvin, nice to meet you. Richard, nice to meet you too. Defo, I've really enjoyed it. Nice to meet you, chaps.
Yeah, anyway, we'll speak soon, yeah?
Yeah, defo. Cheers, Rich. Cheers, mate. Cheers, Melvin. Have a good one.
Speak soon, mate. Brilliant. It was a lot of fun, wasn't he?
Oh, fantastic, yeah. He's a couple of a friend of mine, actually. He looks exactly like a friend of mine.
Does he?
Yeah. Wow. Just very quickly, should we talk about the final?
Go on. I was going to come on to the final because I've got, you can probably see it's behind me anyway, but I did get this lovely picture of I think that's the third goal that Kempes scored. And I just think that is an iconic football picture, isn't it? An iconic football image.
Kempes got the winner, the second goal he got, Kempes.
That's what I think. That's what it is. I think that's a goal in extra time.
The winner before it made it 3-1. He made it 2-1.
Yeah, 2-1. Yeah, and then they got another goal at the end, didn't they? But that's an iconic picture, isn't it? Of probably one of the most iconic moments of the 1970s, actually, with all the ticker tape on the pitch, him running away, celebrating, his hair going everywhere, and just a fantastic moment, wasn't it? I mean, that final.
He scored twice in that final, Kempes.
He did, yeah. He did score twice, yeah. I thought Holland were a bit unlucky, actually, in that game.
Well, they hit the post in the last minute of full time, didn't they?
They did it. It 1-1, yeah, that's right.
Slowly went along the line and come out.
Wasn't it that guy? You remember before the game, some guy had a bandage on his wrist, and they kicked off Argentina saying, he shouldn't be allowed to play. Do you remember before the game? And there was a big
he had a cast on it, and he'd been wearing it in the World Cup.
All the other games.
They said, no, you can't wear that. Yeah. So they had to put a bandage on it instead.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm sure it was him that hit the post in the last minute, you know. I'm sure it was that same player, or he was involved in it. I'm sure he was.
I wonder who that was.
Or it might have been Rensenbrink who hit the post, maybe. Because that was Van der Kerkhoff, wasn't it, who had the bandage? I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if it was him that hit the post, but I seem to remember it was, thinking it would have been justice if he'd scored the winning goal after all that fuss they made.
No, Rensenbrink hit the post. Rensenbrink hit the post.
It was Rensenbrink, was it? Oh, right, yeah. He was a good player, him, actually.
Well, he scored all those goals. He scored 5 goals in the World Cup. Couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, he was. I remember him. Yeah, he was decent. Him, like, I mean,
the whole World Cup. Summing up the whole World Cup in that one for me was one of my favourites. It had everything. It was just had everything was, nothing seemed like it did. It was so different. Yeah, it didn't seem on the level, but we still loved it. It was the most spectacular World Cup I've ever seen.
Yeah,
with the paper and everything.
I think so.
How the players looked and how fast the football was in certain games. Yeah, I mean they played some the football was phenomenally fast when you think about some of it. Yeah, and it was brilliant to see. And I mean, you learnt about players that you never heard of before.
No, exactly.
And then what you did, a lot of these players, I mean, Kempes went to Spain, didn't he? I think we played him in a final.
Yeah,
we played Arsenal.
Valencia. He played for Valencia.
That's it. But we played them in the final.
We did, yeah.
And after that, you followed a little bit of Spanish football because a lot of the Argentinians went to Spain.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And you followed it a little bit more than you would do normally. You thought, I remember him. I'll just see how he's doing, and it was very, very interesting.
But you see, Melvin, this is why the World Cups used to be so important, because you didn't get to see these players ever play, really, because TV, you didn't get much football on TV, did you? So you'd never get to see them. And that's why, waiting 4 years for a World Cup seemed to be too long, because you didn't get to see these players any other time, did you? I mean, I used to love the Holland team. I used to love their kit. I mean, that's a great iconic kit, isn't it? Look, I mean, that is just incredible. That's, and I used to love Holland and watching those teams, but it's like you don't see them. You have to wait 4 years to see them again, and it's like that's no good. But the World Cups were so important for that reason. Whereas now, there's no one at this World Cup we're going to be surprised about, because we've seen them all. You see them all every single week, and it's not the same, is it? It was much better. Yes, 4 years was too long to wait to see him again, but ultimately that anticipation was amazing, wasn't it? You just look forward to it so much. It was like the biggest event.
Exciting. Yeah, so exciting. But talking about that Dutch kit, we actually, I think it might be the next year, my local team, we bought that kit. We wore it as our kit.
Did you?
We used to tell people I played right back and my mate played left back, and he was a bit of a Mickey taker. And he used to tell that we used to corners you. The corners, we stayed on the halfway line and marked the centre forward. And if they had two strikers, I marked the other one. Yeah. The corners being taken, and he started talking to the centre forward, winding him up. He goes, "You know why we got this kit?" And they're like, "No, we play total football." And he was so annoyed. They used to get so annoyed at him when he wanted that. If they're annoyed, they can't play as well. He's very funny. We played total football. He had a very posh voice, my mate, and they couldn't handle it. Some of them were very funny. And it's a lovely kit, as you say. I've still got it here. I've still got it at home. That kit.
It's iconic. It's an iconic football kit. That absolutely. I think all the Holland kits are, because they're pretty much the only ones that play in orange, aren't they? So it's such an iconic kit. Every single Holland kit, every tournament I've loved. I've got a couple. I've got the 88 Euro one. They won the Euros. I've got that kit. Holland. I've got a couple of others. 98 World Cup one. I just think that's an iconic. They're an iconic football nation, aren't they, Holland, as well?
They're fantastic. Their football they played was phenomenal. I mean, they're two brothers in that squad, the 78, weren't they? Two
and
brothers.
the Kerkhoff, wasn't it?
That's it. Rene and someone else.
Yeah. They did that. They were brothers.
Even they had I don't know if it was that World Cup, Richard, but they had a guy called who Arsenal allegedly were after. Rudy Kroll.
Oh, Rudy Kroll. Yeah, I think he was more in 74, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah. I think you're right.
He might have played in 78 as well, but yeah, I think 74 was
unbelievable.
Yeah, he was.
And we were after it. Most of the Dutch team, they were total footballers. They were all of them were footballers. They could do anything with a ball.
They didn't need to play. They didn't have positions, did they? You could just say to them, just go out and play football. They weren't restricted by positions or systems. Just go out and play football. That's what they did, and they were unbelievable.
They were probably the best team ever to win the World Cup.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, 100%. They were absolutely brilliant. And how Scotland beat them, I still don't know.
No.
In that game, I know Scotland had to win, and maybe Holland only needed they could lose and still go through, and maybe that's
Holland. You know what it's like. It might be the situation that Scotland were poor, let's face it, and they said we've got to play the worst team probably in the tournament or in the league that we're playing in, and they got to beat us for 3 goals. See you next week. It's one of those, right?
I think so.
The panic is in. That's what it probably was.
Yeah, I think it probably was. Yeah, but I mean, Holland have always been one of my favourite national teams actually to watch. Just brilliant. And that 78 World Cup was, so it's the first World Cup I remember, and that's one of the highlights for me was watching that Dutch team and the Brazil as well. I mean, Brazil, didn't have a great World Cup for them compared to what they've done in other World Cups, but just seeing that playing in that yellow kit,
fantastic.
Just watching them playing. Yeah, it's iconic, isn't it? It's football moments that at the time it's just you'd never seen it before, and it's like wow, actually seeing Brazil. Obviously, you'd heard of Pelé and you'd heard of all these great Brazil players, and suddenly actually watch them on your telly playing. It's like it was amazing, really, to experience that.
It's a bit. It should be banned. The World Cup should be banned if Brazil don't get qualified. It's not a World Cup without Brazil in the World
Yeah,
Cup.
no, it wouldn't be a World Cup without Brazil now. I kind of think it's not a World Cup without Holland either, actually. But, you know, the couple they haven't qualified for, I don't
See,
enjoy it.
I saw, and I was old enough to appreciate the 1970 World Cup when Brazil won it in Mexico. And that was one of the greatest teams I've seen. Most attacking, unbelievable, with Pele. The whole forward line were amazing. They had 5 forwards, Brazil. And if you ask someone who everyone would name the forward line. You ask someone who plays centre half for Brazil, they go, I don't know. Did they have a centre half? They were so attack minded, you know. Yeah. It was a brilliant World Cup. I saw some fantastic games, and I was allowed to stay up, though I was studying. My dad let me stay up and watch a couple of games. One was just going back to before we go in the night. I think Italy played West Germany in the semi-final, and it was 1-0 with about a minute to go. And in the last minute, the sweeper of Germany, Schnellinger, got a phenomenal slid in with both legs like that and put the ball and make it 1-0. I think after extra time, the score was 4-3. It was an amazing game of football. Wow. And it was late at night for me, past my bedtime, as they say. And I just thought, this is what it's all about. I love it. I love the game. I love the game anyway. And it's actually made me even love it even more, especially World Cups.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think more than ever that this World Cup this year, this is the reason why it's really upset and annoyed me, because the World Cup is something special, and it's, it shouldn't be ruined in the way that they've done it this year by playing it in the winter, by playing it in a country that isn't a football country, and all this kind of stuff. And they're ruining what is the sort of pinnacle of football, isn't it? The World Cup. It always has been. The great tournaments that there's been, and everyone looks forward to them. And to do what they've done to it now, I think it's unforgivable, really. Absolutely unforgivable what they've done to the greatest tournament in football. It is. There's no doubt.
They should rename it, instead of the Football World Cup, they should rename it the Corporate World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. And it's such a shame, and it's going to get worse probably. But, when you look back at these other great World Cups that there's been, it makes me really sad and angry, actually, that they've done this to this tournament, which has given us, most people I know fell in love with football from watching a World Cup.
Exactly.
That's what you fell in love with football for. Because let's face it, watching Leeds play Southampton on a muddy pitch on in December on Match of the Day isn't going to make you love football, is it? But watching Brazil play Spain or something in a World Cup, that's what makes you love football, isn't it?
In the summer. In the summer.
In the summer, exactly. With the sun shining, and it's great weather, nice bright coloured kits, and that's what makes you fall in love with football. Not domestic. Yeah, we love domestic football. We Arsenal and all that kind of stuff, right? But ultimately, when you're young and you want to, that's what gets you into football, isn't it? You watch a World Cup and it just blows your mind. It used to, and it was like, wow, and that's it then. And football's in there forever, and it never goes. And for me, '78 World Cup was a moment that I realised that I was always going to be a football fan from watching that World Cup. That's when it kind of hit me, and it's such a shame that what's happened to it now. But anyway, luckily they can't take away the memories of the great things that we've experienced. That's the main thing, isn't it? They might ruin it for everybody else going forward, but they can't take away what we've experienced, which is something that's so important, I think. And but the '78 was the one for me that really kicks it all off. I remember I'd watched the FA Cup final that year, obviously when we lost to Ipswich, and how disappointing it was to see Arsenal losing. And then that World Cup, it was like, that's what convinced me that I knew then I was a football fan. Do you know what I mean? Before that, you like football, you watch it on telly, you watch the cup finals, and you think, yeah, football's all right. But then you experience that, and it's like, that's it. I know now I'm a football fan, and I'm lumbered now for the rest of my life. And I knew it then. When I was 10 years old, I knew I was stuck with it forever. But you didn't mind really, because it's been great. But yeah, that was the one for me that started it all off, I suppose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was good. That was excellent.
Yeah, it's good memories, isn't it? It is good memories, and there's a lot more World Cups that we'll be looking at as well over the next few weeks. Obviously, 82's next week. We sort of mentioned little bits of it tonight, but we'll go into that in a bit more detail next time. That was a great World Cup, the one in Spain. And I say England in that one as well, so that was the first time I've seen England playing a World Cup, so that was a big moment as well. So that was good fun, and a lot of good memories of that one. So we'll look at that one at some point next week. I'll work it out when we can do that one. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and Lee was a great guest as well, which was good.
Very good.
Excellent. A lot of great memories, which is what we like. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun actually. So I think I'm going to enjoy doing these shows actually.
Why not?
I think they're going to be good, aren't they?
It's good. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thanks very much, Richard. Really good.
No, it was great. Thanks for coming on, and say thanks to Lee as well. I'll be back tomorrow with the Arsenal women playing Man United. What a big game that's going to be in the WSL. That kicks off at 5:30, so I'll be going live at 5:15 for that one. So please join us for that if you can. That's going to be a great game, I'm sure. And then obviously there's no Arsenal games coming up now because we've got this ridiculous break in the middle of the season, which we didn't really want, but. We'll be filling our time up with obviously some World Cup memory shows. We'll be doing the usual stuff. Melbourne will have his Highbury Matters show as well, which is great, as we know. I think Steve and Adam will be doing their social show as well next week. I think that's going to be on Tuesday. So yeah, there's loads and loads of great content that we're doing. We're not going to do anything with this World Cup because I'm not interested in it, quite honestly. But we will be doing lots of other stuff as well. So there'll be loads of stuff on the channel to keep you amused over the next few weeks until. Obviously the Premier League's back, but we've got the women's anyway. The women will be playing regular still throughout this World Cup, so we'll definitely be covering all that stuff. I say tomorrow, definitely join me for that one against Man United. It's at the Emirates, that game, so if you're about and the tickets are still on sale, that's going to be a great game actually. 5:30 kickoff tomorrow night, so get yourself along to the Emirates if you can, and if you can't, then join me for the watch along because it's going to be good fun, and hopefully it will be another really good game. So that was our first World Cup memory show. I really enjoyed that. That was a good fun. I say thanks to Lee as well for coming on. I say 82's next, Spain 82. So if you've got any good memories of Spain 82, join us for that show. I've got a feeling I might do it on Monday. Are you available? Oh, you're not available on Mondays, are you, Melvin?
I'm not available at the moment, no.
It's just trying to fit it in around everything else that we've got going on. I'll have a look and see what space there is. But anyway, we will be looking at Spain 82 next time, which is going to be fun. So join us for that one. But I say, don't forget tomorrow, it is the big one. Arsenal women against Man United. It is a good game. Arsenal top of the league, Man United third. So it's an important game as well. So we need to win that one. So join us for that at 5:15. We will see you very soon. Obviously, thanks to Melvin as always. When's your next Highbury Matter show? Is it next week? Not this week coming.
No, Wednesday week.
Yeah, Wednesday week. And you've got a very special guest, I believe, as well, joining us.
I've got John Sperling, I think, Wednesday week, isn't it? John Sperling.
I think it is, yeah. And if you don't know who John Sperling is, then one, what have you been doing with your life? And if you do know, you'll know some of the great books he's written on Arsenal and football in general. But he's some really, really fantastic books. He's a great author. So he's coming on the show a week on Wednesday to look at some Highbury from the very early 80s we'll be up to now, won't we? We're almost into the 80s, aren't we?
Yeah, we're doing 78, 9 and 980. Yeah, we're touching 1980.
Well, we're moving into the 1980s, so it's gathering pace, isn't it? Now we've gone through the 60s, we've gone through the 70s, and we'll be getting into the 80s as well, which is great. So, and John Sperling is fantastic. I mean, 2 or 3 of his books are, I think, some of the best Arsenal books ever written.
One I've just seen on here, funnily enough, his name's just clicked up. I might get this. He's advertised it here. It's called Death and Glory: The Dark History of the World Cup.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just getting that.
I haven't got that one. I've seen it advertised. I definitely need to get that book.
I've got to get it. We've got to get it, definitely.
Yeah. We've got to get that one. I did see that one.
I think that one I'll see him on Wednesday week. We're talking about.
I think there's only 2 of his books I haven't got. I think it's that one and that Get It On, the 70s one. I haven't got that one, funnily enough.
This would be good, this one. I'm going to want to get that.
Yeah, well, they're the 2 I need to get. Then I've got a complete set then of all his books because I think he's brilliant. I really do.
The Dark Side of the World Cup.
Yeah. I've seen that advertised. I need to get that one. I think that's quite a recent one. I think that was only out last year.
Right.
I think that's his newest one. I mean, obviously, you can find out when he's on the show. But he's a great author, so definitely watch that one. So that's going to be good. So definitely tune in for that anyway. So yeah, I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Thanks to Melvin, of course, as always. Good to see you again. And I say thanks to Lee.
Yeah, Lee's been great.
Yeah, thanks to Lee. His first time on a channel. We'll definitely have Lee back again for. I think he can contribute to lots of shows actually. With the memories that he's got, he'd be good for your show, Melvin. Actually, wouldn't it at some point?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'll have a chat with him. I
think I think he'll be a good guest for one of your shows later on as well.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely get him back anyway on the World Cup shows, on Arsenal shows later on and stuff like that. So he's going to be good. So, but yeah, that's our first World Cup memories. 1978, Argentina won the World Cup. England didn't qualify. Scotland got knocked out early doors, which was quite good. And Arsenal lost the FA Cup final, which wasn't quite so good. But anyway, we won it the year after, so that was fine. We'll remember that one instead. So thanks for joining us. We will see. I'll see you tomorrow for the women's game. And of course, in the meantime, as always, come on, you Gunners. Come on. Let's do it. See you later, guys. Take it easy.